All right. Welcome to week 3 of the Texas League video podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dwayne Debo Morrow, here with our esteemed commissioner, the one and only Big C, Professor Cowan. This week, we are missing one of our co hosts for a very good reason. He is out being a dad, celebrating a couple of birthdays in the family. So, we also want to say a very big shout out to Rowan, who is turning 9, and Rylan, who is turning 6. Happy birthday to them both. And Deuce, we'll see you next week.
Yes, happy
So,
birthday to fellow Virgos.
Indeed. So while we're giving birthday shout outs, I want to also give a birthday shout out to my grandmother who turned 90 years old yesterday. She is the patriarch of our Morrow family up there in Milwaukee. So thankful that she made it to see 90. And tomorrow when this gets posted, it'll be my little brother's birthday. So happy birthday in advance to my little brother.
Well, since we're doing birthday shout outs, I guess I should give one to my sister whose birthday was yesterday. And like your brother, when this hits tomorrow, it'll be my father's birthday.
Hey, whole bunch of September babies. We ain't gonna talk about what that means everybody was doing last Christmas and New Year's Eve. But hey, but even funnier is actually my little sister is pregnant and she's due tomorrow. So my little brother is at home right now hoping and wishing that our niece will make her appearance tomorrow so that he can always share a birthday with her. But she wasn't feeling any contractions today, so we'll see. But we'll be praying for safe delivery whenever my niece decides to make her entrance into this world. But anyway, let's jump on into a few games from the NFL this week. So let's start with the Thursday night game, which was the Chiefs and the Chargers. So uh, Dr. Deuce is the Chargers fan of the group, and they had a really tough interconference, interdivision game, I'll say, against the Chiefs on Thursday night in Kansas City. And for a while there, it looked like they were going to pull it off. But no matter who they put at wide receiver or running back, they still have that man that they call Patrick Mahomes back there at quarterback, and they still have a very big target at tight end. So, unfortunately for the Chargers, in the end, Patrick Mahomes did what Patrick Mahomes does, and he was able to lead them back to a second half comeback. Um, Second half comebacks were a theme of the weekend that we'll touch on a couple of games. But let's talk about the Bucks Saints game since you are our resident Bucks fan.
To be completely honest, I did not see 1 second of that game because I was in Jacksonville watching Matt Ryan show the pocket presence of a freshman B quarterback. But we're not talking about that game. So I saw the highlights. Um, I think once Mike Evans got thrown out the game, like the team just got hyped and they just took over from there. Not to mention Jameis Winston did what Jameis Winston does, which is throw ill-advised passes, which helped get us back in the game. You know, Jameis can only be Jameis. He's one thing. It's consistent.
That is
So
true.
first time we beat the Saints in the regular season since 2018.
Wow. I saw that, but I didn't realize that that went that far back. So that
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was the game where Ryan Fitzpatrick came to the press conference wearing Deshaun Jackson's jewelry. I believe that's how far back we go.
man, I just saw something on YouTube where he was talking about how that happened, how basically Deshaun Jackson just was like, look, I told you if you do this for us, you just got to wear whatever we give you. So that was a very Fitz magic moment right there. A viral photo and meme for sure. So now let's talk about the 3 games that were just ridiculous come from behinds. And I'm going to start with my favorite team, the Raiders, who lost in overtime to the Cardinals at home in our home opener after leading 20 to nothing at the half. Kyler Murray, again, just super talented young quarterback using his feet and his arm to score two 2-point conversions late in the fourth quarter to force overtime, and then the Cardinals defense forcing a scoop and score for 6 points to end the game in overtime when we were driving to close the game out. It looked like to get in position for a Carlson field goal. So I'm not going to bang on them too much. It was an improbable loss. I definitely wasn't happy. But we got a game against the Titans coming up this week. Both teams are winless in Nashville, and there's going to be a heavy Raiders presence in Nashville. And it's always a good game when we play the Titans in Nashville. I believe that we've beaten them the last 2 games where we faced the Titans in Nashville. So I unfortunately won't be there because my wife's birthday is coming up, but I'll be there in spirit. But that wasn't the worst come from behind win. We got to talk about the Browns and the Jets, and we definitely have to talk about the Ravens and the Dolphins. So Browns, Jets, late in the game, running back breaks free. Chubb breaks free. And instead of pulling a MJD from back in the day and just going down on to take a knee once he gets the first down, he scores. Take us through what you thought.
I understand they want to. There's some people who want to blame this on him, but he scored, which is always questionable in that situation. But let's talk about the extra point that was missed,
which ended up being the game difference.
Him scoring the touchdown, okay, but that extra point. If you make that extra point, now they have to go for 2 somewhere to win, or it goes to overtime. You might be able to pull it out.
Right.
Don't pass all the Nick Chubb.
Because
Nick Chubb owners everywhere were ecstatic about that extra touchdown.
So Nick Chubb in that moment did what every fantasy owner wishes their running back would do in that moment, which is get the extra points. No fantasy owner is ever happy when the coach tells their running back, if you get the first down, go down. Now that's the smart move, of course. But we ain't here to talk about the smart move. We're here to talk about the fantasy implications. So if you're a Nick Chubb owner, that touchdown could have been the difference between you getting a win or a loss on Sunday. So hopefully somebody out there that was able to win their game because of Nick Chubb touchdown was able to make a donation to his favorite charity, or at least send him a word of encouragement. Because the fact of the matter is, it's hard for a person that's trained when you see daylight hit the end zone to tell them all of a sudden, hey, just stop. But again, that was still not the most amazing comeback of the weekend. I think that award goes to the Miami Dolphins for their comeback against the Baltimore Ravens. Talk about an unbelievable second half by Tua. I'm going to screw his last name up, I know, but Tua Tagovailoa. If I messed it up, sorry. He's just Tua. Now, I'm an Auburn fan, and so I also got to deal with Tua for 3 years while he was in college. So I'm no stranger to his ability to throw the football or his ability to lead a team. I think we all were, a lot of us, if you're a football fan, you remember him coming in the second half against Georgia and what he did to bring that Alabama team back and then win that game in overtime. But after throwing 2 first half interceptions, he didn't need overtime. 6 touchdowns, 469 yards through the air. I mean, lights out performance. Jared, how does a team lose sight of Tyreek Hill? Not once, but twice for long touchdowns in a game where the other team has to throw the ball.
The defensive coordinator should be riding the megabus home after the game. Him, the safeties, the cornerbacks. Like I said, I was at the Jaguars game, so I didn't see the game, but the whole secondary should have been on the megabus because the Greyhound is too good for you. Everybody knows there's certain players that you do not lose sight of. It used to be Deshaun Jackson. Where's Deshaun Jackson? Don't let him get loose. Now it's Tyreek Hill. Don't let him get loose. And y'all did it not once but twice. And don't forget about Waddle. Just make sure that nobody get behind you. And they must have did that numerous times for him to throw 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, they were moving everywhere. Miami definitely needs to work on their team touchdown celebrations because yeah, that was some pretty bad end zone dance moves from the team. But you know what?
Oh,
The important part was they got it done on the field, and so hats off to them. So that was just a great game. And then the fantasy implications, of course. So everyone knows that when you're talking about fantasy, Sunday night games and the Monday night games are some people's last hopes to either make a comeback or they're praying to hold on to their lead. Sunday night, the Packers did what they do when they face the Bears. To quote some dude that looks like Nicolas Cage from Con Air, I own you. I still own you. And yes, he still owns the Bears. It was not a question of if the Packers were going to beat the Bears. The only question was going to be about the performance of Aaron Rodgers and the fantasy players. After a very lackluster week one, we saw Aaron Jones do what Aaron Jones does, which is control the flow of the game, both on the ground and catching the ball out of the backfield. And the Packers pretty much dominated that game, beginning to end, for a solid home win. So fantasy wise, nothing to blow the roof off with the exception of Aaron Jones. And if you had anybody on your fantasy team that's on the Bears that was playing on Sunday night, you obviously don't understand fantasy football because there were really no, as we said last week, there was no one that you could really trust. Like if you had no other choice than to play Justin Fields, you need to make a trade.
David Montgomery actually had a decent game. I'll give the credit is due. He the only one, but still I don't trust the Bears.
Right. I mean, again, we're talking about desperation if you had to play Montgomery. But other than that, that was pretty much it. So this week gave us 2 Monday Night Football games inexplicably. Usually we get a East Coast Monday Night Football game and a West Coast Monday Night Football game week one. I don't know what all the implications were of why the 2 Monday night games were pushed to week two and why they basically kicked off 45 minutes apart. But we had the Titans at the Bills up in Buffalo, and then we had the Vikings at the Eagles. I think that the Titans are probably still wondering where Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are and if they have finally removed their foots out of their behinds, because it was the Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs show yesterday. I mean, they were scoring at will. It was whatever duo you want to say, Magic to Kareem, Kobe to Shaq, peanut butter to jelly, whatever you want to call it. They were doing whatever they want on that field. And Josh Allen continued to show not why not only is he's not one of the why he's one of the top young quarterbacks in the game, but why he's one of the top fantasy quarterbacks in the game. But the big surprise was the Bills defense. I mean, the Titans couldn't do diddly, to quote a coach. They couldn't do nothing. They sucked in all aspects of the game. The lone bright spot was basically a Derrick Henry fall into the end zone. But other than that, people were calling for Ryan Tannehill's head pretty much by halftime, which is not new for Titans fans. But I don't think we're going to see the Malik Willis show anytime soon. What did you see looking at that game?
I saw. I expected Derrick Henry to perform better because they had some injuries up front for the Bills, and I'm like, he should be able to take advantage of that. No such luck. And like you said, he got that one touchdown. He fell in the end zone, but other than that, it was just open and shut. The Bills manhandled them from the first snap. Diggs and like you said, and Allen just did what they wanted to, and they just ran away with it.
So So that game was, I mean, a blowout. The Bills Mafia. I know that they're used to doing like charitable drives for opposing
Broken.
players and teams. So I know they're used to doing charity drives for opposing teams to their charity. So I hope they're getting something together for Ryan Tannehill's favorite charity because they owe that man some money for what they did to him yesterday. Like that was just embarrassing, in all honesty. So talk to me about now. So now, fantasy wise, we're coming down to the last hope of the day, which is the Vikings coming off a tough win against the Packers, going up against the Eagles. Now, the Eagles handled business last week. Even though they let Detroit creep back in the game, they both handled business last week. So both teams coming in the game off a win. But that is not how it stayed. Talk to me about the second game.
I said this last night in our group chat, and I'll say it for everybody else to hear. The offensive coordinator and Kirk Cousins both should have been on the megabus. That's my motto for the week. If you had a bad game, you was on the megabus going home.
You can't ride private after a game like that.
Because I think a high school coordinator could see their goal for last night was to not let Justin Jefferson go off on them. Yet he kept trying to force the ball to him and kept throwing interceptions. Now some of his pass catchers were dropping balls, which also didn't help the cause. But stop trying to force the ball to a man that they are keying on.
Speaking of Jeffersons, shout out to our guest host in the background.
Come say hi. Since you're in here, come say hi. Wave to the people.
Wave to the people, Jefferson. But yeah, so for me, from a fantasy aspect, not in the Texas League, but I was facing since the Bills defense scored 25 points, and my opponent also had 8 or 9 points from Derrick Henry, I found myself and my lead disappearing. But I had a hope. I had Adam Thielen on my team, who is a reliable volume receiver, usually. Adam Thielen had 0 catches for 0 yards off of 1 target in the first half. So I'm just watching my hopes slip away. Going into the fourth quarter, I was down 6 points. So here I am praying, Lord, if you can just somehow get Adam Thielen some combination of 3 catches for 30 yards, 2 catches for 40 yards, whatever you can do. That's all I need. I just need 6.5 points. And lo and behold, I was able to eke out a 2-point victory thanks to that meaningless fourth quarter 2-minute warning drive where Cousins went to Thielen 3 times on that drive. So that is the only good thing I have to say about Kirk Cousins for that game, was he helped me win my lone fantasy matchup of the weekend thanks to him finally finding Adam Thielen in the fourth quarter. So Kirk Cousins, you suck, but thank you.
Kirk Cousins kicked glass off a 45 overpass because I lost last night by about 6 points. I lost. I think I lost about 6 or 7 points. If you stop forcing the ball to
yes, you did. You needed one.
Swing it out.
One touchdown. You needed one extra touchdown, and that would have been the difference in your game. So let's jump into the Texas League games for the week. Let me go to ye old share screen. Hold on here. All right. So let's talk about our first game of the week. First of all, we're going to give a shout out to our High Points winner of the week, who has moved to 2-0. Last week's guest host, Super Mario Cristobalin, whose team put up 166.53 for the high of the week. So let's start with our games of the week. So we're going to go into $200 dates versus Muff Divers. So Muff Divers last week put up a whole lot of points, and his team looked like they were going to be very hard to beat. And this week they had a solid matchup, putting up 111, but that was not enough to defeat $200 dates. So here, looking at their rosters, you can see what sunk uh, poor Adam. So talk to us about Muff Divers' unfortunate loss.
His team was relying on Justin Jefferson like I was relying on Kirk Cousins, and if Cousins suck, Jefferson alone will have to suck, and so those 7.8 points that he put up didn't help the cause. Rashad Penny with 15 rushing yards. Come on, now. We know that. We all know that Pete Carroll likes to run the ball. I don't know what that was about.
Right.
Dalton Schultz, 0.8 points.
Which
that fumble.
Right. It would have been 1.8 points.
I know he hurt his knee, so that probably kept him from trying to get any points back. Singletary with his 3 points because it was the Allen and Diggs show. And the Indianapolis defense just yeah.
How do the Colts go out there after playing the Texans so tough last week, go down to Jacksonville and just let Sunshine and the rest of the Titans just beat them like that? Like, I don't understand. There has to be something psychological about them playing Jacksonville in Jacksonville, because the last two times that they have rolled in there, they have just gotten their heads kicked in. Like, and the funny thing is, different quarterback, same result, a complete drubbing for the Colts. And so, the strength of $200 dates teams is his receiving core, and he once again had two monster performances by his trio of top tier receivers. Waddle and Diggs both just went off, multiple touchdowns, multiple long scoring touchdowns. I mean, it was just an all around solid performance. But even with that, the completely misused and underutilized Kyle Pitts. Like, Kyle Pitts is not a blocker. I don't even know what Atlanta's doing, but I can tell you that if Kyle Pitts is lining up blocking, you're doing something wrong. That's not what you bring Kyle Pitts in for. He is a walking mismatch. And if you, as the offensive coordinator, and if your quarterback can't figure out how to get him the ball, that's a problem, because you are wasting a certified weapon there. And I'm sure $200 dates would like us to let everyone know that Yahoo gave him an A+ for his decision. Not that he did anything. I mean, you started Waddle and Diggs. That wasn't a whole bunch of intelligence. Like, it's not like that was a hard choice where you had to go start or sit. But still, shout out to the man for a great win. All right. So let's look at Armed Rogery versus the Big Green. Unfortunately, Armed Rogery fell after having a very close game this week, but they are one of our 3 0-2 teams currently in the league. So don't worry, we're going to get to the other 2 later. But I mean, Armed Rogery, their team had a explosion. So this is if we go back to last week, I will say that I wasn't sure of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And even in our group chat, there was a TikTok video that said the top 5 fantasy receivers for this week. And Amon-Ra St. Brown appeared on that list. And I said I would replace Justin Jefferson with that in that graphic? Well, goes to show that sometimes the experts actually doing what they're talking about, considering Jefferson's performance compared to the 35 points that Amon-Ra St. Brown put up in a big win by Detroit this week. So great effort, not a lot of criticism. The big problem again was the unexpectedly poor performance of Joe Burrow. Like, I didn't see anything about Dallas's defense last week that would have made me think that the Bengals would have come out and had such trouble putting up points on the Cowboys. But what did you think the issue was for
him? Well, I don't think Rogery's problem was actually on his roster. His problem in this matchup was the Buffalo defense on his opponent's roster. Because his opponent started Justin Fields. There was not a lot of quarterback production from either one of them. He had St. Brown, who went for 34. She had Tyreek Hill that went for 40. So it's like they were kind of going tit for tat.
Oh, yeah. And then the problem is Dak Prescott is her other quarterback. So she literally had nobody to play but Justin Fields.
Yeah. But the biggest difference I see is 22 points for Buffalo, 11 points for Green Bay, and he loses by 3 and some change.
Yeah. That's a tough loss. That I will say that's a bad beat. I still say I hold the worst bad beat of this league's history when I lost by like 0.03, which we the host. That was the worst one. We're not going to dwell on the past though, because I believe you've avenged that loss. I will say this: if I'm armed Rogery today, I am looking at those 22 points from Christian Kirk or those 20 points from Trevor Lawrence, and I'm looking at my roster and I'm thinking, if I just would have thrown Kirk in that flex spot, but when you looked at the matchups, you figured running back against playing that Colts defense, which has been pretty solid. So I understand the decision to go with the running back because the Ravens defense definitely doesn't look like it's capable of stopping anybody right now. But turns out their weaknesses on the backside in the secondary versus the front four. So, and then Miami just got into a situation where they had to throw pretty much the whole second half. So that limited Edmonds a lot.
I'll say this. I just looked at his week 1 roster. Week 1, he started Allen Robinson instead of Michael Thomas. If he had put Thomas in that flex instead of Edmonds, he wins this week. But
right,
as you say, you can't.
But that is
Allen Robinson. I understand because Allen Robinson had a horrible week 1, but
yep. But we give a shout out to you. It's okay. Being 0-2 at this point doesn't mean your season is over. There's still a whole lot of football left to be played. So let's move on to 2 boobs, 2 balls, 1 goal versus our high points winner, Super Mario Cristoballing. So 2 boobs, 2 balls had Josh Allen. Any other week, Josh Allen would have been enough to give you the kind of edge you needed to win this game. But a complete lack of production. Like there was only so the second highest score on that team was the Tampa Bay defense, who had 6 sacks, 3 picks, and a pick 6. So, I thought the Buffalo D did well, but the Tampa Bay D really went off. We already talked about, of course, poor Adam Thielen and his challenges this week. I mean, but when you're talking about a 30+ point loss, there's not a lot that you could have done with the bench. Like you really just needed somebody else to catch fire. So I'll let you talk about, speaking of catching fire, I'll let you talk about how your Cousins team went off this week.
He had the people we saw about earlier, Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb. We went to dinner after. We went to dinner. We sitting there watching Aaron Jones go off. Nick Chubb went off while he was at the game. So his team just went off, and everybody else just did their part, chipped in they double-digit points, and they all together put together a nice performance for his team this week.
I mean, just solid numbers all around. Really, again, Justin Herbert Thursday night starting it off with just under 30 points. T. Higgins was the bright spot for the Bengals offense on Sunday. And then again, Nick Chubb, like, even if you take away that last touchdown run from Nick Chubb, Cousins still puts up 158. So, I mean, that was just an overall knockout solid performance, without a doubt. So now we go to our good friends. So a matchup among friends, which was DBT Kirkwood versus our absent co-host, Mr. Mathis King. Math was not on his side this week. Just again, good solid performances by quarterback and Mike Williams. And Mike Williams, of course, in absence of Keenan Allen, you knew he was going to have a good game. Like, that was the foregone conclusion lock. Like, if you were making a prop bet for anything on Thursday night, it was Mike Williams over 100 receiving yards and at least one touchdown. And he had 113 yards and a touchdown. Hunter Renfrow, usually a solid slot receiver, fumbled. But again, we're talking about a 30-plus point loss. And even with as bad as this loss it was still the second worst loss of the week. So you really don't have just like a whole lot that he could have done to overcome the points that were put up by Kirkwood's team this week. Like, even if you swap his quarterback out with Kyler Murray, that's 7 more points. You throw Tyler Lockett in there, that's 10 more points. He still loses by 20. So that unfortunately drops Mathis King to 0-2, our second 0-2 member of this week. So I'll let you talk about Chris's team.
Jalen Hurts had a good game. He told us that Jalen Hurts was going to be his ace in the hole this year. He said he felt Hurts was going to have a good game, actually a good season, and he produced last night. So can't be mad at that. Curtis Samuel came out of nowhere. Right. I think he took our advice and he took one of the Steelers out of his lineup, which Claypool was on the bench, and I think he replaced him with Curtis Samuel. Even though McCaffrey is not, I don't think McCaffrey has scored a touchdown. He's been putting up yards, being consistent.
No, I don't think he's gotten in the end zone yet either.
CD Lamb got his yards, got his catches, put up a nice and I'm shocked that the Baltimore defense got any points. Oh, that's right. They had a return touchdown.
Yeah, they had, they had a great first half. And they put in a ninth string team for the second half of that game. And we saw how that helped them. So shout out to Chris for getting his first win.
Probably all the points came straight from that. 6 points for that return touchdown. They had 2 interceptions, which should have gave them another 2, and then he had a sack. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that is how he got those 11 points.
Yep.
Plus, it doesn't hurt that the Chargers defense only got 3 points. But.
Yeah. Our second to last game review from last week. Well, it wasn't a good week for the 3 hosts. None of us won our game. So we'll just touch briefly because no one wants to look at basically a beating like this. So I'm not going to make you talk about your team too much. It was a really close win. Basically, Kirk Cousins screwed you. And also
him and with the injury.
You can't
really injuries though.
No, I think that had he stayed in the game, there would have been. I think that's your difference maker. Judy staying in the game, you win that game. A tough loss for sure. I'm not even gonna be mad at you for not starting London. because if I'm not mistaken, he's a rookie, right?
He is.
So he's a rookie. He's got a journeyman quarterback, and Atlanta's still trying to find their offensive identity. So it was not that big of a deal that
But
he
the
haven't.
I don't say mistake, but what I know I could have done, which would have made the difference. When I found out that Pittman was out, I went and picked up a receiver for the Colts because my opponent had Pittman, just to be petty to make sure he couldn't pick him up. That dude scored 10.7 points. If I had put him in the flex, I would have,
Oh,
that was 9 points. But no one thinks that guy was going to outscore Jerry Judy. So it
no,
is.
not at all. So then we'll go to my game, and I'll let you talk about. Since it's your boys that basically screwed me, I'll let you talk about my loss.
No, sir. Don't call it my boy. I would just like to start off by saying I suggest that you do not play Mike Evans.
You did, and it is documented that you suggested
And
I
I
not
suggest
play.
that you not play Tom Brady either. Matter of fact, in the group chat, you're like, should I play? Should I play the New England stack today? You asked that question right before game time. And I think if you play that New England stack, you might have won. Let me see,
Oh,
because
there's no might about it. There's no might about it. I would have won by 10.
see,
I would have won by
you
10. Yeah.
know better.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, which I do not understand, Steven, aka Memphis, still running with this Bears tight end who is yet to make a catch, and he don't even have another tight end on his roster.
Get why.
You know what?
Bad team, young quarterback, safety net. So you know he's not pushing the ball downfield. So he should be looking for his safety net. The problem is Justin Fields is a running quarterback. So he's not looking when he gets in trouble, he's not keeping his eyes up. He is taking off and trying to tuck, or he's finding himself caught in the backfield, unfortunately. But so that makes
Two of
me, yeah, that makes me the unfortunate third member of the 0-2 club in Texas League. But we are not done with the season. We are looking ever forward as we come into week 3. So let us go into week 3, and we will start with our good friend $200 dates versus our other good friend DBT Kirkwood. Now, the projections have this as basically a dead heat. Give me your comments on this game, and then we're just for time's sake, we're going to do one person review both teams, and then we'll make our picks.
Just looking at it, Russell Wilson has not produced real well so far. So if I'm $200 dates, that one's got me a little concerned because week 1, new team, okay. Week 2, you
At
barely
home,
did it.
week 2 at home.
against the Texans. I was like, I don't know, but like you said earlier, he got Chase, he got Diggs, he got Waddle, and they've been carrying this team, and I don't see why they won't put up good performances this week.
My only,
You got Mr. Kirkwood over here with Hurts, who's I don't see, as long as he can run and as long as he got AJ Brown and he can check it down to his tight end, he'll be all right. I think McCaffrey is liable to have that game where he just blows up. So this could be the week that McCaffrey blows up.
all right.
I can't guarantee that, but
So who you picking this week?
as much as it pains me to say this, I gotta go with $200 dates because I just think that his team has more consistent players than Mr. Kirkwood.
I am actually going to pick against you. I'm going to go with Kirkwood. Um, I think that McCaffrey is going to find his way into the end zone twice this weekend.
Twice.
I'm saying he scores 2 touchdowns. I'm gonna say more than likely one both ways, one through the air, one on the ground, but I'm definitely saying that McCaffrey will be the difference maker this week. And so I'm going with Kirkwood as a difference maker. All right. So our
Well, I don't
next
know, Jeff.
game, two boobs, two balls, one goal versus the big green.
Ah, yes.
All right. So I'll take this one. Both of them very solid rosters. Now looking at Big Green, Justin Fields is the weakness. He's the weak link. Even against a team like Houston, you have a defensive-minded head coach who is not going to go out there and let some young quarterback that he knows he can disguise blitzes, he can disguise coverages and throw a lot at him in order to neutralize him. I don't know what her plans are for the waiver wire, but I certainly hope that we wake up on Wednesday morning to see that she has either picked up a quarterback off the waiver wire or made a trade or something, because she's not going to make it far this whole season rolling with Justin Fields. Like, that can't be the way that she goes out. Um, Josh Allen for two boobs is going to do exactly what he does. It's a divisional game. He saw what Lamar Jackson did to them last week. He is just as skilled, maybe not as fast, but he is certainly just as skilled in terms of throwing the ball and running the ball as Lamar, and he's going to be facing that same defense. And Buffalo's defense is a whole lot tougher than Baltimore's is. Um, Again, Brandon Cooks, people forget, Cooks is still fast. He's still a crafty veteran. He still knows how to get open. And he's going up against the Chicago's team whose defense does not scare anyone. Houston may not have a top tier quarterback, but besides the strength of that neck of their quarterback, he can still push the ball downfield when he needs to, and Cooks can get open. Um, Tennessee's defense, after being run over all last week, I expect a strong game from Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs was underused in week 2 versus Arizona, and I don't see Josh McDaniels making that same mistake going into Tennessee again after seeing what was just done to their front four last week by Buffalo in terms of them being able to run the ball with their running backs and their quarterback. So I expect a good game. I would get Thielen out of this lineup uh, because you can't trust Kirk Cousins. So that's my only recommendation uh, is to replace Thielen until we can trust that Kirk Cousins is not going to be throwing the ball uh, at shadows or just closing his eyes and throwing the ball downfield. Um, Even with that, even if he leaves Thielen in, I still got to roll with two boobs, two balls this week. Um, Josh Allen is just my X factor for that game is Josh Allen. Who do you like for that game?
Not gonna go into a lot of detail. I have received messages from the co-owner of this team the last 2 weeks about how I have picked against him. That stops this week. I will pick two boobs, two balls, one goal to win this because, like you said, as I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, I don't trust anyone that plays for the Bears. So I do not trust Justin Fields to lead this team to a victory.
Indeed, indeed. All right, we got our first agreement. All right, so we have Armed Rogery versus Super Mario Cristobal. And Armed Rogery looking for their first win. Super Mario looking to stay undefeated. So this is, again, your cousin. You're his lucky charm so far. Talk to us about this matchup.
Oh, like I said, I believe in Justin Herbert. If now the question is, how are those hurt ribs going to affect him? That might be there lies the problem. How are them hurt ribs going?
I, I just have one thing. On one play Thursday night, he could have run for a first down. His ribs were hurting so bad that he stopped short and basically threw the ball away so he wouldn't have to run. I think it was 2 plays later, he threw that 35-yard dart for a touchdown with those same ribs that have had about 10 days to heal. So whatever they're gonna have to load up the spike with to get him on the field on Sunday is what they'll make happen. But I'm not worried about him missing that game Sunday or not being able to be effective.
He got a Chicago Bear in his lineup, and we already know how I feel about that. I don't know who on his bench that he should. Actually, I would put Garrett Wilson in there because I think he's the best choice, but I'm just giving my 2 cents. I don't like Aaron Jones because he's playing the Bucks, and we're pretty good at stopping the run. But we'll see how that. We've been pretty good about stopping the run this year. Rogery. If Joe Burrow can stay upright, he can produce. I'm gonna ride with St. Brown until he proves otherwise, especially after the way Minnesota's defense looked last night. Michael Thomas in the inner division game. He trying to prove he is that guy. Austin Eckler, I think this is the week that he's due to get in the end zone a couple times, kind of like McCaffrey.
Right.
I like Williams because he's on another one of my teams. Kelsey playing Indianapolis. That defense looks horrible. Nothing more needs to be said. Edmonds, they making strides in Miami. I really had no faith in two of them boys to do anything, but
I would switch up that flex, man. I think he has better options at the flex than Edmonds.
I agree. There's a lot of better options in my opinion. You got Allen Robinson, who like I said, squeaky wheel gets the grease, and that's what happened last week. They made sure they got him going early. He got a touchdown. Like I said, Christian Kirk, I literally just watched Sunshine make sure that they got in rhythm early. He was spreading that around. Olave was just going deep a lot. They don't take but a couple of deep catches to have a nice fantasy day.
That's very true. So, what's your pick?
But yeah, I'm sorry. I believe Rogery goes to 0-3 because I think it's going to be a close one.
It's projected to be close.
I still, as of right now, they predicting Rogery to win, but I don't believe in Joe Burrow's offensive line to come together. And if he can't stay upright, he can't produce.
Correct.
And I think that's going to be the issue. Joe Burrow underproducing because he can't stay upright. So I'm going to have to go with Super Mario in this one.
Yeah, I'm not picking against Super Mario this week. I picked against him once, and he made me look bad. I rolled with him last week. So, I'm not going to pick against him this week. I agree. I do, again, like you said, Mooney's in his lineup. Somebody has to catch the ball, but the question still becomes Justin Fields. Can he actually throw the ball? So, all right. Now, to our next matchup, Math is King versus Muff Divers. Once again, we have an 0-2 team that is facing off against a pretty solid performing team that if they wouldn't have faced one of the top 4 scoring teams last week would be 2-0. Right now, Deuce is projected to win this game. Looking at his roster, definitely like Carr against the Titans. Their defense looks very easy to beat. I think that Hybe, trying to see who he's got on his bench. I don't know. I don't. George Kittle is needed. I think that, again, like I said last week, if Kittle plays, that's the difference in this game. Jimmy G under center makes everyone with a fantasy connection to the 49ers a little bit happier. Not because Trey Lance isn't a good quarterback or that he can't produce, but there's still a lot of factors and still a lot of learning curve related to him as a quarterback. Jimmy G has a little bit more proven ability to make the throws you need to control the game and to get the ball downfield. So, but you weigh that when you're looking at Lamar Jackson, Keenan Allen. So that right there for me is the question mark. Is a week off enough for Allen to be back? And if he comes back, is he going to produce? Um, Justin Jefferson projecting 18 against Detroit after Cousins and that performance and his performance last week.
But you
Again,
must. This game is not in prime time where Kirk Cousins is known to just plummet.
this is true. But Detroit's going to take a look at, what Philadelphia did. And I would expect their defensive coordinator to implement a lot of the same schemes that they saw were effective. But I mean, you just have players that the crazy thing is that if you take away the outlier of Lamar Jackson last week, that game is a lot different for Muff Divers. But I mean, Lamar Jackson for the 50 points, like that's lights out. But the rest of the team, they weren't producing like that.
No.
So I mean, I expect so now you have Monday Night Football, Dalton Schultz, like
PCL sprain.
right. So is he gonna play? Like who's the other option? Hunter Henry's. I mean, what has Hunter Henry done this season? Nothing. So so
But the question is, was Schultz playing on Monday and Hunter Henry playing at noon on Sunday? Does he, if he rolls with Schultz and then he doesn't play?
I mean, you gotta go with it. And then again, he needs a kicker. Uh, you got another guy that needs a kicker. Um,
I guess that means Butker is back.
looks like it,
Mm.
but not really sure. Right now, he's projecting at 0, so it doesn't really say but I'm not sure what Butker's status is, but we'll see. But he should definitely keep his eyes out because he may need a kicker. That being said, I think Mathis King gets his first win this week. Um, Ezekiel Elliott in prime time, for the most part, when it's a meaningless game in prime time, Zeke likes to go off. And this is a Monday Night Football game that's going to mean absolutely nothing because it's the Giants. And so I expect Zeke to find the end zone um, and get his Care Bear on in the end zone. And I think that he inexplicably drives Mathis King to his first win. Who do you like?
I have to agree because the Cowboys always tend to play the Giants tough and make something happen there. I believe that Minnesota gets it together this week. So I think Jefferson and Cook both get in the end zone. Atlanta sucks. Tyler Lockett should be able to produce this week. Let's just do it.
That is very true. All right.
Even though
Second.
the reverse choke, I must give them credit. They did the reverse choke yesterday and almost came back to win a game.
Absolutely. All right. Second to last game is Stairway to Evans versus Hanging with Hernandez. So both of them 1-1. Both of them solid teams. I'm pretty sure I know who Jared is picking this week. So I'm just going to take a look at both rosters. So we start with Kirk Cousins. I do not expect Kirk Cousins to be in the lineup come Sunday.
What are you trying to say about me? You think I don't have no Kirk Cousins? I told you it is a non-prime time game. This is where he is. As long as he ain't got to play on prime time, he'll. Now the facts show when he go to prime time, he average. Other than that, he all right.
Indeed. So, well, if you believe in Kirk Cousins, then I think your team looks good. After a underwhelming performance last week from Devontae Adams, which still saw him score a touchdown, I think he's going to have a similarly good game against, again, the Titans, not a very good team. Hollywood Brown. Now, the crazy thing is that the Raiders actually did a good job covering him last week. One of the things that I was concerned about, of course, was him getting loose for one over the top. But really, they held him and they stayed in front of him all game long. He's facing a Rams defense where he is most likely going to draw Jalen Ramsey, who, after making a big play last week, is back to proclaiming that he is that guy. We'll see if he is indeed. But the big question mark for me this week is Najee Harris on Thursday night against Cleveland. Cleveland does not have a bad defense, especially their front four. But it's prime time. It's a short week. And again, Najee is basically their entire offense at some points during the game. So I don't know if I can trust that Najee is actually going to be able to carry the load. So I'm going
points right now. I just looked at it. He has scored 21 points in 2 weeks. Until he proves otherwise, I don't believe in him either.
So I think that this is an easy pick for both of us this week. I'm gonna roll with Stairway to Evans to get the W. Sorry, Steven. I know you might not like it, but it is objective as I can get. And so that brings us to our last game of the week and our last team that is sitting at 0-2, also facing one of the 2-0 people. So both ends of the spectrums. Take us away.
Ooh, yeah, he has what I like to call the Mahomes factor. Anytime you got Patrick Mahomes on your team, it is a promising thing. And he's playing Indianapolis, a team that I just watched in person get torched by Sunshine. Now he has Pittman playing in that same game if he plays. If he plays, I think they're gonna feed him the ball. But the question is, does he play? Metcalf against Atlanta, just like I said previously, Atlanta ain't good. Metcalf should be able to get something going. Barkley versus the Cowboys. Him and Zeke just like to go back and forth. I think it's that old Big Ten rivalry. Let's see who can play better. And David Montgomery, as I said earlier, is the only bear I trust. Tight ends, yeah. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. As Mahomes goes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire might go. You got Brady versus Green Bay. I'm hoping this is the game that Brady gets it together because, we've won 2 games, but they haven't been pretty. Deebo Samuel.
They have not been pretty, especially in terms of the quarterback play.
It is what it is. Deebo Samuel, always likely to blow up. Jonathan Taylor, I think this is a bounce back game for him. I think he bounces back and gets on the right path, and depending on how Matt Ryan doesn't screw this up. Like you said earlier, for some reason, every time the Colts go to Jacksonville, they stink it up. So maybe they get back on the right track. You got Pollard in the flex. I think that's the key right there. He's been sneakily scoring some points, and I think he sneakily scored some points on Monday night. But I don't think he scores enough points for you to win this matchup because I believe the Patrick Mahomes aspect against them Colts, I think it's going to be like week 1. He's going to come out, he's going to throw 3 or 4 touchdowns, and he might put it away for him early. But for your sake, that you hope that don't happen. But I think this is company man game to win, and he goes 3-0.
I'm going to do something for the first time this season that no one has done. I'm going to pick against myself. I don't think my team's going to be able – I don't like the matchups this week. Not having Mike Evans in this favorable, high-powered game at home against Green Bay is going to cause a strain on an already struggling Tom Brady. 23 points projection for Tom Brady. I don't know where they're getting that from. I wouldn't be surprised if I, for the first time, actually benched Brady in a non-bye week situation since I've ever had him on a fantasy team since I've been playing fantasy football. Something I should have done last week. But the problem is he's still Tom Brady, and he's still one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league. And he's 2-0 somehow.
But
And you
I'll ask you
just,
this: it's Tom Brady, and I get that. Do you have faith in Mac Jones to do what Tua did and torch this Baltimore defense?
that's the other thing. It's not necessarily about Mac Jones. It's about Bill Belichick knowing how to scheme for a opponent that they are very used to facing. And if I trust Bill the Hoodie in this situation, I gotta trust Mac Jones. So I don't know. But I'm officially picking myself to fall to 0-3. I am going to do this with a heavy heart, but I'm going to be rational and not a fan. And I'm going to be, for the first time that I can think of in a long time in this league, I'm going to fall to 0-3. And that's very sad. So,
I was 0-3 last year. I know the pain.
so, all right. Big NFL games this week that we're looking forward to. We got the Steelers and Browns on Thursday night. Divisional opponents, should be some bad blood. We got the Packers at Tampa Bay on Sunday. As we mentioned, the Raiders at the Titans. Both of those teams looking for their first win of the season. The Jaguars at the Chargers. So I made a joke to my friend after the Chargers beat us week 1 that they should calm down on crowning the Chargers because they'll mess around and lose to the Jaguars at home. So we'll see if my joke becomes a reality. And then Monday Night Football, of course, we have a old school NFC East matchup between the Cowboys and Giants, which for many years was an exciting game, but both of those teams basically suck. They're both 1-1 right now somehow, but there's not a lot to get excited about. The only good thing about that is that both defenses are so bad, we might actually see a lot of points scored, which might make the game exciting. But other than that, we wish everybody the best of luck in week 3. And remember, if you would like us, if you'd like to join us, if you're a Texas League member, come on and join us on Tuesday nights. And if you want us to review your fantasy matchup from your league, just hit us up and we will give you our honest opinion on you and your opponent. So until next week, good luck. Go Raiders.